So Riding with Killers, the band formed in 2018. How did you meet the other members, and where did the idea of starting a band with those members come from?
So, basically, the idea was born in 2018. I had just quit my band from the Gulf Coast, Wildfire, which is previously Catharsis, and I was like, all right, I gotta leave the Gulf Coast. I gotta get out of here. I gotta figure this out. And I was at a point to where I was like, dude, I don't ever want to deal with another lead singer again. So I'm just gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do it this time. Because at first I was like, who am I gonna find to sing? And then I was like, nope, not going through that again. Because clearly I did not have the best of exits, like for me to quit a band that I started when I was 14, 15 in my parents' garage, like that took a lot. It hurt. It was like the craziest divorce ever because a band is essentially a marriage. Um, and so I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna sing. I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to write lyrics. I don't know how to do this, but I know how to write songs. It's like I could start with a guitar riff, and I'm like, all right, I want this drum feel, blah blah blah. So I went to my old producer Matt LaPlante in Madison, Wisconsin, and we demoed out 3 songs, and we had programmed bass, programmed drums, and they were starting to sound cool. And then I was like, wait, Dave Coughlin is not far away. He's in Detroit, and I love that guy. He's like my older brother, and I hit him up and I was like, dude, like we have these songs, check them out. And I got to know Dave in 2013 when Catharsis went on the winter tour with Taproot, and which was like essentially their last full length tour. And I got to know the entire band so well, and they became some of my best friends, clearly. And I was like, well, dude, like I'm near you. Would you want to put some real drums on this? Because I always loved Dave's drumming, and even though he was jamming, he was playing parts already written, like he always put his flair. And I would always watch Dave play drums on tour. And then, we would play Call of Duty, every single night after we got off to like, we still play Call of Duty,
That's a necessity for bands.
oh
Yeah.
my God, dude. Like, we've been playing Call of Duty for like 11
It,
years
it's it's
now.
it's the bands. It's because of the bands that it's the best-selling video game every year when they release one.
Totally. It's the best way to stay in touch with friends that you make on the road. And like, dude, Dave and I destroy. Like, I always tell him, like, we should join a Call of Duty league. I bet we can make some stupid money.
That's where the
Because, like,
real money is. Yeah.
dude, like every time we play a game, when we're on a team, me and him are top two every single time. And 9 times out of 10, our team wins. So we got a thing there. So we just had this amazing friendship and we had this connection. And he was like, well, dude, come up to Detroit. And he was like, I want you to meet my real good buddy, Tim Krukowski. He used to play bass for Sponge. And then we all got in a room together, and dude, it was magic. Absolute magic, like Dave put the drums on, and then when Tim got to it, like, dude, our bass lines were basically following the guitar, and Tim was like, nope, fuck that. And he just started like on Get In, for example, like, dude, it's almost like it's basically a Metallica riff. Oh God, For Whom the Bells Toll, essentially that do 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 do. But like he took it a step further, and like he just put all of this awesome flair and style, on top of these songs. And then we had the Get In EP, and I was like, oh shit, we should start writing more songs from there. And then we ended up doing like DNA, Don't Fade Away. I'm trying to think of all the other songs that we did together with Tim, and you know, uh, World Apart. And we did like 4 or 5 more songs with him, and we were just having such a Self Destruct, another one. And Tim started helping me with lyrics and vocal and melody writing. Like that guy is a powerhouse writer. He's a great musician, and he really helped me grow up a lot. And then, it got to a point of where Tim, instead of more playing, wanted to be more on the producing side. And, that's where James Laskew came into the picture, and he started, writing with me like Hostility. Like James and I wrote that song together, and Floating, and the Nine Inch Nails cover, and Do This on My Own. So like that the first record is a mix of James and Tim Krukowski together. And I met James when Wildfire opened, and it was just one date that we opened this tour package, but it was Nothing More, Red Sun Rising, and Wilson. And James was originally from the band Wilson, and we just had such a great time, with a lot of that crew. And when I moved up to Detroit, that was right as Wilson was breaking up. And I sent James a message, and I was like, "Yo, dude, like." We played the show together and we hung out." And he was like, "Honestly, man, I was drinking a lot back at that point. I feel like I remember you, but like it was just really funny how that all came about." But then James and I end up getting in a room together, and we're like, "Dude, we make really cool sounds together." We had like we and then we just connected instantly, and to the point of where, he and I wrote the second Riding with Killers record with Jacob, and James did 100% of that record with me. And he's my favorite bass player, man. Like he really is. Like the sounds that man makes with his hands, and the sounds that he and I make together, like it's just it fits. It's perfect, so just really from getting out there and networking and being cool with the people that I get to meet on the road was how I landed with all these people.
I I'm a little late to the party, but I just discovered Nothing More that you mentioned you shared the bill with them. I
Yep.
just discovered the band Nothing More recently. They have a big hit single, If It Doesn't Hurt.
Yep.
And to me, that's like an undeniable rock anthem.
Oh yeah.
And then I went back through the discography, and there's great songs like Jenny, and then something about war. And they're a band that
Still more.
I'm just sinking my teeth into now. So it's cool that you brought them up. Uh, with the podcast, we have lots of loyal listeners that listen to every episode, regardless of who the guest is. So sometimes
Yeah.
it's your fans and the bands that you're in, it's their fans. Sometimes it's just people that check out every episode. So for those new listeners that aren't familiar with Riding with Killers, how would you describe the band's sound? And I know that's like the hardest question to ask for a
It
band.
is. It really is. I would say it's a blend of 90s new metal and with a modern twist. I try to draw from all of my influences, whether it's a one little piece here or one little piece there, but that's the best way that I know how to describe it is, guitar driven, rock riffs and new metal vocal styles with heavy rock drums, but like this new record, it's going to be completely different from what I've put out there already. Like, we've got odd time signatures, we've got more metal, tendencies. Like this second record, like I feel like we wrote an old school Slipknot tune. Like I don't sing one lick on this opening song on the new record, and it's just like you said, it feels like an old school Slipknot song. But I try to draw from all the guys that made me want to do this in the first place.
So I think the band name Riding with Killers is awesome. And I think it's congruent with the sound, the aggressive sound of the music, at least from the EP and from the the album from last year. I haven't heard the new album. Maybe this is breaking news. The new album's coming out. We can talk about that. Is there a story behind that band name? Because it feels like there should be, because it's awesome.
Yes. So there is. So a long time ago, do you know the Netflix movie about Motley Crue called The Dirt?
Apparently, it's amazing, but I haven't seen it.
It's really good. So they shot that movie in New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's like 45 minutes from my hometown. And I applied to be in it, an extra in it. Like I didn't have any speaking roles or anything, but I got accepted. And while we were shooting, um, I ended up meeting this guy named Shane, and we connected, we hit it off. We knew a lot of the same musicians in the local area. He's a drummer, and he's just a good dude. He had a great vibe about him. And we exchanged numbers. We had a great time hanging out. And then like a week later, he hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, I know you're in this transition." This is like right when I was about to quit my band, and I was looking at moving. I was leaving my job, and he was like, "Hey, I know you said you're in this spot. I really enjoyed hanging out with you." He's like, "Do you want to come work with me? I'll pay you 2 grand for the week, and we're gonna wrap houseboats." And I was like, 2 grand for a week? Like I'm fucking there, like because I had never made money like that at that point in my life. And I was like, I don't know what wrap houseboats means, but like I'll do whatever. And it's starting to seem like this great thing. And he's like, "Yo, dude, we're gonna fly there. I got your hotel, your food, your travel. You're not gonna have to pay for anything." I'm like, "This sounds great." Well, as we start getting closer to it, he's like, "Hey man, we're not gonna fly anymore. We're gonna drive a company vehicle." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." "Hey man, we're not going to take a company vehicle. I got to go. We're going to take my personal vehicle." And I was like, "All right." "Hey man, we're not going to take my personal vehicle. We got to go to Hattiesburg, pick up my parents' vehicle at this place, and then we're going to." And so like the story kept changing, and I was like, "Okay, this is starting to feel weird. Like what's going on here?" And so I ended up calling a mutual friend of ours named Matthew, and I was like, "Bro, like, is Shane cool, or am I gonna end up scattered in like 6 trash bags on the highway to Atlanta?" And Matt starts laughing his ass off. He's like, "Bro, like Shane is good people." He's like, "If he says this is what it's gonna be, this is what it's gonna be." And on the drive up there, he starts joking about it. And he was like, "Yeah, Matt told me that you called and checked up on me, and we were gonna play a prank on you and make you feel like you were part of this like drug ring that you couldn't get out of, and all this other stuff." And but I was afraid you might have a gun on you, but whatever. And I reached in my backpack and I pulled out a 9 mil, and I was like, "Well, I do." And he was like, "Holy shit!" And I was like, "Bro, we're going to Atlanta." And this was before I was, privy to Atlanta and all this other stuff. But like, I was traveling with someone that I didn't know, and it's one of those things. I'd rather need it and not have it than to have it and not, or I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And he was like, "Oh my fucking god!" And I was like, "Bro, like I'm not crazy. This is just for my personal protection. Like I'm not like a gun nut or anything crazy like that." But that was one of those scenarios. Like I just felt uneasy, and so we literally laughed our asses off about this for like 4 hours after, like because it's like a 7 hour drive, and then first 3 hours we're talking and blah blah blah. Well, it turned out to be one of the coolest weeks of my life. We went out to Lake Lanier, Georgia, and Margaritaville had just bought a plot of land up there. And with that plot of land, they bought 2 houseboats. Well, they were converting this, not in this, almost like a casino bar houseboat kind of a thing, so people could go party on the lake. And we wrapped, and it was the first time that anyone had ever done this too, which was so cool. And we worked our asses off for a week wrapping these houseboats on graphic vinyl. And like I had an X-Acto knife and I was cutting out all the windows. And we were I learned a lot that week. And met this dude named Greg and his wife, because right next to these docks were these other just like gigantic houseboats. I'm talking like millionaires lived on the lake. It was so cool, and we were getting to hang out with these people. After every day of work, went to a Braves game, went to the Georgia Aquarium, ate some of the best food I've ever eaten. And on the way home, he's like, "Man, you thought I was gonna kill your ass, huh?" And we're laughing about my paranoia, and as we're driving home, we see a Jeep on fire, right? And then as we drive past it, the fucker blows up. And we were like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" And so like we've got all these emotions running wild, and I'm reflecting back on, my paranoia, but then how cool of a week it was, and riding with killers just popped up into my head, and I was like, huh, that's kind of cool. That sounds like a fun band name. I can acronym that to RWK Rock. You know, um, I could I could have fun with merchandise. I could incorporate classic cars, muscle cars. I could incorporate movie slasher villains, or if I wanted to go taboo, I could do serial killers, or maybe one day I could look at doing a graphic novel about riding with killers and make it about this band, or whatever have you. Like it made my gears turn. I was like, it doesn't have this, like prolific, universal meaning, but it also at the same time does, because it represents me finding someone who's now one of my best friends, a brother, and it represents one of the coolest weeks of my life. And I started searching the internet from front to back, and I was like, wow, there's never been another band called Riding with Killers that's ever existed. And as you know, finding a band name that no one else has ever had before is like next to impossible. And I started thinking back on my old band names like Catharsis. Dude, no one could spell that name correctly ever. And this is radio stations. These are promoters. These are tour flyers that, we would pull up to a show, out of state, and our name would be misspelled on the marquee. It would be pronounced on the radio. And then when we did Wildfire, that still somehow got messed up. And then we found out there was like um a teenager group of girls from Tennessee called Wildfire. And I was like, well, shit, like, and we had to compete with that because they had like 50,000 followers on Facebook at the time, and yada yada. And then
It's hard to compete with a group of pretty a girl group, you know.
dude, totally, and they were country on top of it, and I'm sure they had mom and dad's money behind them, because they had some money from somewhere behind them. So
That's
it
the
was like
winning
we were
formula right there. Country,
completely,
all girls, money backing them.
dude, and it was like lose lose every which way. And then when I thought of writing with killers, I was like, oh, I like this. This is something I can have fun with. I can expand later down the line, and then when I do have money, I can actually start enacting some of these, ideas that I have. And then whenever I got hooked up with Andy Glass from We Came as Romans when I moved up here, I was looking for a band logo. Like I wanted an acronym of RWK, and I was like, look, I want this to be my Slipknot S. And then he came up with that RWK logo, and I was like, dude, that looks iconic. That's something that people will remember. It's a badge. And it's been slow moving, but it's all starting to come to fruition. And we're starting to build that name, and it just went from there. And then once I had the name, I put that out to the world, and then I was off to the races.
So you guys released the full-length album Full Circle last year, 2023. I've listened to the album in its entirety twice with a good pair of studio headphones, and
Thank you.
here are my quick notes. Album is awesome. Heavy, melodic, great riffs, harmonies, diversity, attitude, badass. So that's my unofficial on the spot review. And the single Don't Fade Away is currently on radio. I'm seeing it
Yep.
show up on different charts. Number one, how good does it feel to have some radio play? Because it's hard to get that if you're not signed to a major label. And number two, do you remember the first time hearing your song on radio? I'm thinking maybe you had some radio play with other bands, but maybe this is the first time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so to be getting radio airplay now being an independent is really amazing. I've been working with Tim Binder from New Ocean Media, and he's one of those guys, man. Like he knows that I'm not rich because like I self-finance this band, and I don't have rich parents. I don't have rich friends throwing money at me. I have to work my ass off painting houses because I own a painting business, but I also don't charge astronomical fees. So I'm a modestly priced, independent contractor, and every bit of my work and the money that I make goes towards, this band. And he sees, he heard it and he knows that like he believes, you know what I mean? He sees something there. But again, he knows that I'm not rich. So he basically has made it semi-affordable for me. It's still not cheap, but he believes in what I'm doing. So to have a believer in my corner that wants to see me succeed, it's been amazing. I just got our charts today. I think we hit number 75 on I don't know if it's the Billboard Top 100 or whatever like that. And I think we're 94 on the secondary market, which I mean that's not amazing, but at the same time, I threw a pebble at radio, like a pebble, like the smallest amount of money that you can throw, and to see it making some moves like that, it's cool, man. Because I know that if I had tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands to throw at radio like these labels and these bigger bands do, maybe we'd be sitting a little bit differently. But like to have such a shoestring budget and be seeing stations around the country picking us up, like it lets me know that I've got something worthwhile here. It lets me know I'm on the right track and that I am making the right move. So it's honestly the coolest thing in the world. Like hearing your song on the radio will never get old to me. It's not something that I'll ever get jaded to. Because dude, this is what I've been building towards my entire life. And now that it's starting to happen, for real, like it's amazing. And the first time I ever heard my music on the radios with my band Catharsis way back in the day. And got to give a quick shout out to Scott Fox and Kenny Vest, Riley Knight, and the rest of the crew at 97.9 CPR Rocks in Gulfport, Mississippi. They played my band song from Catharsis called Closer. And I'll just never forget hearing Scott Fox saying, "Local group Catharsis, here's Closer," and then bam, da, 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 da. Like it was just like it's real, like it was that was like goosebumps, chills, hair standing up on your arms, and to know that like 10 or I'd say it's about 12, 13 years later, same effect. It's still just as cool. But like I feel like it's even more meaningful now because these are my songs. I mean, those were my songs back in the day, but I wasn't singing, and to know that a song that I wrote about my grandmother's struggle with dementia is on the radio right now, and it's something that is deeply personable or personal to me about, one of my favorite women on the face of the planet. Like it's incredible.
So you have a few special guests on the album. One of them is Paul McCoy from the band 12 Stones. So this is on the song World Apart. So man, I was a 12 Stones fan. I bought their debut album, and
Oh yeah.
we were talking about Wind Up Records a few days ago and how amazing their track record was. But for our listeners that maybe aren't familiar with 12 Stones or Paul McCoy, you guys know Paul McCoy's voice
Yes, you
because
do.
Evanescence, their debut album Fallen, the first single Bring Me to Life that everybody knows. Bring Me to Life, there's Amy Lee's amazing angelic voice, and then there's a guy that's kind of doing a Linkin Park type
Wake
rap
me
thing.
up.
Yeah. Wake me up. That guy is Paul McCoy. And that debut album, we're talking about the biggest debut albums of all time. That debut album from Evanescence sold 17 million copies. And Paul McCoy was the voice that launched that band and launched that single. incredible. When I read the name, I'm like, that's not the 12 Stones, Paul McCoy. You're like, oh yeah, that's him. So
Yeah, it
you
is.
you have a story there that it's not just like, oh, you reached out and got this guy. It's you have a relationship with this guy.
Oh yeah, dude. Paul is one of my best friends. He is an absolute sweetheart. And I mean, 12 Stones is from Mandeville, Louisiana, like right down the road from my house. If instead of going down to New Orleans on I-10, you keep going, west, you'll hit Mandeville, and their old drummer was a DJ at 97.9, DJ Fantastic. Um, and like I got to go see those guys a bunch when I was a early teenager. When they released Potter's Field, like they signed my SG Voodoo that I still have, um, and I got to meet Paul, and like I was just always kind of around Paul, and then once I got to know. The guys at 97.9, and I started playing, CPR Fest and more CPR related shows, just by default, Paul and I just ended up together. And he's another one of those guys that we just connected and is like, I love you, you love me, we're friends. Okay, cool. And every time we were around each other, it was nothing but laughs and smiles and good hangs and good times. And I mean, dude, anybody that knows Paul will tell you the same thing. He's just such a sweetheart. He's a good guy. He's a good dude. He's a great music. Like, he's one of the best out there. He really is. He deserves more success than he has. I would say I feel like he's a very underrated musician, a very underrated singer because like the dude's a badass. He is, and once we got a relationship going, and this is a fun fact that not a lot of people know. I was auditioning for 12 Stones at one point, and
Wow.
then I was supposed to be a guitar player for him, but then they just never really got a band back together and never really started doing much after that. But like I remember going over to Paul's house with my old bass player and we ran through songs and we were talking about logistics and stuff like that. And then it didn't happen, but 12 Stones didn't really happen after that either. Um, and then, that kind of got he and I thinking about playing music together and writing together. And then I had this song, World Apart. I had the verses recorded, we had the music, but I was like, dude, what am I going to do about this chorus? I don't know what to do. And so I called Paul and I was like, yo, dude, we've been talking about doing something together for a long time. Do you want to write a chorus for this song? And I sent it to him and he was like, fuck yeah. And then 3 weeks
That's
later,
a good response, eh?
he went to, I want to say Skid Mills. Um, and he sent me everything and he was like, do you want me to change anything? And I heard it and I was like, nope, perfect. And as soon as I heard it, like it was everything that I was hoping that song would turn into because it's kind of an angry song and I was so mad when I was writing that and I was so pissed that I couldn't think straight when I was trying to write the chorus and I told him where my head was at, what it was about, and he just shot it out like nothing, man. Like there, like
It
it
ain't
was
no
like it was
thing.
seamless. Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, he's an absolute pro, man. I mean, he's like you said, he's part of one of the I would argue the biggest Evanescence song. Like the 12 Stone records were amazing. They charted, like they were all around the world. They were on MTV and all the things, and they were doing it. Like so to get to work with him was honestly a dream come true, especially because we had such a good friendship leading up to that, and it was something that we both wanted to see happen. So, um, getting Paul on a track was just amazing. And I'm really hopeful that at some point here in the near future, we get to perform that live together. And I think it's coming. I think that one's coming.
So I have one quick point about the album, and then we'll dive into Taproot.
Sure.
So there's a Nine Inch Nails cover on this album. So it's their
Oh,
song
yeah.
Every Day is Exactly the Same, which is one of my favorite Nine Inch Nails songs. And the lyrics to that song are incredible. So basically, he starts by saying, I believe I can see the future. And you think, like, oh, does this guy have a superpower? Like, what is this? And it turns out that his life is so boring and he lives the same day every day.
Oh,
So it's like he can see the future, but it's because tomorrow is going to be the same as today. Like it's just incredible songwriting. So I guess how did you choose that song specifically? And before you answer that, the best show that I've ever seen. And I go to concerts that's like all I do is go to concerts. And I went to from Ottawa to Montreal. I went to see there was Death from Above 1979 opening for Queens of the Stone Age, which is
ooh,
that's who I went to see. Who was
woo!
who was opening for Nine Inch Nails. So I went as a Queens of the Stone Age fan. I was familiar with Nine Inch Nails, but I wasn't a fan, and they converted someone that wasn't there to see them. It was by far the best show I have ever seen in my entire life. And during that show, in that moment, I understood Nine Inch Nails. Like I got it. They hooked me, and I've seen them since then. And the two times I've seen Nine Inch Nails are the two best shows I've ever seen in my life. So I thought I would put that out there before you answer how you chose that song for this album.
Well, let me start by saying fuck you, because that sounds like the greatest show of all time. Like, I love Queens of the Stone Age, and oh my God, what a great show. Oh, I'm so envious. I'm green with envy right now. Like, that's incredible, man. Like, and I take it back, not really fuck you, but like,
Yeah.
seriously, what a
But
great
still
show,
fuck
man.
you. Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing.
And look, I don't want
Incredible.
to make it worse, but that show when I saw them, it was Queens of the Stone Age and Nine Inch Nails in Montreal. A few late years later, I go to the Made in America festival in Philly, and the two headliners, Queens of the Stone Age and Nine Inch Nails. So I saw the same bill twice with like a I don't know 7 year gap. So completely different shows.
Oh my God,
So I'm
dude, that's
sorry. I'm
amazing.
sorry if you're
No,
envious.
well, and you know what's funny? Aside from the recorded cover, we cover "No One Knows" live. Like
Nice.
that's one of my favorite songs to cover at our show. But and we'll do a little bit of show and tell after I tell you why I chose that song. But dude, that song it's my favorite Nine Inch Nails song aside from "Copy of a." But like when I first heard that song, it was at a point in my life where I felt like I was doing the same thing. Like I felt like I was on repeat every single day. I felt like my life had no meaning. I felt like I was just spinning my wheels and going nowhere and just continually doing the same things. And I just related so hard to that song because I felt like years of my life was that song on repeat. And it's my favorite Nine Inch Nails song, and if I'm gonna try to attempt to remake a song or record it, like I want to have a personal, deep, real connection to it. And I mean, dude, I've experienced every array of emotion listening to that song from a teenager to now, and it's just such a powerful and incredible song, and to get to live inside of his head and recreate all the synths and electronic stuff as an actual rock band. Like, it was so much fun, man. Like that, I had such a good time, like with Matt and Dave and James. Recreating that tune. It was it you know it it just seemed like a no-brainer because I feel like not everybody would pick that song either. Like I don't want to just pick songs to cover that everyone else and their mom is gonna, try to recreate. And I hadn't heard anybody try that one yet. And I was like, okay, let's do this one. And the end result was honestly fantastic. I'm really proud of everybody's work on that song, and I think we did a really great job. And for the show and tell portion, real fast, I'm gonna make sure I don't like destroy my guitars.
I mean,
Uh,
how do you even find the right guitar case? You got 77 guitar cases.
so this one, and I actually recorded the entire second Riding with Killers record on this guitar, but this is a Gibson. This is a Trent Reznor prototype Gibson that never went to production. And what happened is Trent was playing a similar guitar. He was talking with Gibson, and he basically, didn't reach a deal, but Gibson preemptively made like 50 of these hollow bodies. And when the Memphis factory shut down and they didn't reach the deal, these were given to employees as a commemorative gift for all their hard work. And I found a collector that just didn't want this anymore. And when I saw it online, and it was advertised for a much lower price whenever I saw it, but then I got put in touch with the guy, and I was like, and it was like I had finished my first real big paint job. Like it was the most money I'd ever made on a paint gig, and I was like, I'm buying myself a guitar. And then I bought this thing, I got it, I played it. It felt like it was made for my hands, and like I said, I made the entire second Riding with Killers record on this guitar. And like, dude, we were plucking strings on this thing. Like we didn't we used this thing almost like a piano. Like we didn't really use this like a guitar, and we had a lot of fun creating weird, wacky sounds with this thing. So that's my show and tell is my Trent Reznor prototype Gibson hollow body. So
That's
boom.
amazing. And you played that guitar on the Nine Inch Nails cover?
No, 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 no.
You got
Um,
that after?
I got this one after.
Got it. I was gonna say that'd be so meta to play a Nine Inch Nails guitar on a Nine Inch
Dude,
Nails song.
right though? Right?